Hello, and welcome to Power and Influence of the Curriculum, Part 2, North Korea.
North Korea represents a very patent example of how the curriculum can be used in a very pointed and negative way. Put in simple terms, in North Korea, the curriculum is used in all levels of education and in all spheres of society to help maintain the status quo. While that description does not seem bad, let's take a look and see how the curriculum is applied in North Korean style.
The main feature of the North Korean power structure is reduced to one supreme goal: to strengthen and maintain the Kim family in absolute power. Kim Il-sung became the head of North Korea at the establishment of that country in 1948, and he stayed in power until his death in 1994. That was a period of 46 long years. He was called the Great Leader, and after his death he was elected as the eternal president. After his death, his son Kim Jong-il was named president, and he remained president until his death in December of 2011. His official designation was the Dear Leader. Upon his death, his son Kim Jong-un was named president, and he will probably remain in power until his death. Everything in North Korean society is designed to secure the allegiance of the people to this family. Let's look at some examples of how they do it. Every public and private building, including homes, trains, and buses, are expected to display in a prominent place the photographs of the Kim dynasty. This old photo only includes the first two Kims, but I'm sure that they are now also requiring the display of the current president. In order to make possible for all buildings and places to have their image on display, the government supplies the citizens with free framed photographs and a cloth so that the people keep the frames clean. The emphasis on the veneration of the images is so great that visitors to North Korea have been sternly reprimanded for throwing in the trash an old newspaper that includes their photographs. In many public places, they erect larger-than-life statues of the Kims, and the people are expected to show reverence to them. As you can see in this photo, there is a public ceremony in which people are bowing down to a gigantic statue of Kim Il-sung. It is very common to see people wear the image of the older Kim on their clothes, and they are expected to wear them with pride. Even brides need to wear the button on their wedding gown, as the Kims are also part of every wedding ceremony. In fact, an important part of wedding ceremonies is that of taking a flower offering to the nearest statue of Kim Il-sung. The government owns and controls all of the media outlets in the country, and only government-approved content is broadcast. Citizens may buy a television set only upon receiving permission from the government. After they purchase the TV set, they must take it to the police station where they perform an operation on it so that it will only tune in the approved government channels. All reading material is carefully controlled by the government, and it specializes in the glorified biographies of the Kim family and their teachings. Most books are supposedly authored by Kim Il-sung himself. The government has total control over all aspects of life. All homes belong to the government, and people are assigned in what city or province they can live, and they are assigned a dwelling. Government officials periodically visit all homes to check that the photos of the Kim dynasty are in good care, that the television sets have not been tampered with to pick up channels from China or South Korea, and to make sure that only the authorized persons are living in the homes. All jobs belong to the government, and they are assigned to people according to the government's interests. All the food belongs to the government, and it is distributed or rationed as they please. All education, of course, is also in the hands of the government. The North Korean culture has a strong belief in the enlightening power of education. From their cultural and religious background, they have high reverence for education. Over 300 colleges and universities exist in the country, but universities are reserved for the elite. Colleges are less prestigious, and many of them are based in factories. Admissions and all the content and activities in higher education are dictated by the central government. High school graduates don't need to worry about what they are going to do, for the government will decide the what and the where for them. The government selects who can compete for spots in higher education, which is about 20% of the youth every year. But first, the young people must go to military service for 10 years, and they are not allowed to get married during this period. Young people must take qualifying tests on math, physics, chemistry, foreign languages, and the revolutionary history of the great leader. It is in this subject where they will have the chance to show their devotion to the great leader and his family. Once they get to the university, they are required to stay in dormitories to foster the collective spirit. They receive free room and board, free uniforms and textbooks, and a small stipend. They don't need a job and they don't need income because the government takes care of them. When they get to the university, they are not allowed to marry yet, and physical and even platonic relations are not permitted. Access to any kind of information is controlled by the government. The only content that is broadcast is that which has official approval and contributes to the political interests of the government. Much of the content extols the virtues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, and their exploits as loving, wise, and successful leaders of the nation. Internet is not available to the common public, and only a relative few elites have access to Internet with imposed limitations. Because of tight controls, great masses in the country do not know that the United States put men on the moon 5 decades ago. Enormous amounts of propaganda are continuously fed to children and youth at all levels, and over 25% of teaching time is spent on political indoctrination. People are taught that North Korea is the most successful country on earth, and that other countries are in much worse conditions than North Korea. Heavy emphasis is placed on conformity and on loyalty to the memory of Kim Il-sung and to the current president. All students are required to study and memorize embellished biographies of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Their biographies are collections of fairy tales that present them as the embodiment of wisdom, courage, leadership, love, benevolence, and all other virtues. Notice this theme that is common in North Korean paintings. The children are attracted to the Kims, who are presented as loving and kind. In these official representations, there are no hints of the realities that have kept this family in power for so many decades. In schools, classes begin every day by 3 bows to the portraits of the dear leader and the great leader. The children are taught that they enjoy life, happiness, food, shelter, and clothing thanks to the generosity of the Kims. The history of the Kims is studied and reinforced at all levels, in the elementary school, in secondary schools, and also in higher education. And the Kims are presented as the reason why powerful enemy nations like the United States have not been able to overtake their country. Indoctrination is weaved in all the subjects. For example, in math they could study the following problems. 3 soldiers from the Korean People's Army killed 30 American soldiers. How many American soldiers were killed by each of them if they all killed an equal number of enemy soldiers? Another problem could be, the great leader father Kim Il-sung was, as a child, once given 9 apples. He gave 3 to his grandfather and 2 to his grandmother, 1 to his father and 1 to his mother. How many apples did he give away, and how many did he keep for himself? The curriculum weaves in the praises for the Kim family and the main goal is to preserve the regime and keep the Kims going strong.
In North Korea, they have a backup system that helps them reinforce all the indoctrination that they're trying to inculcate in the population. The first aspect of this is a reward system.
Rewards and the fear of losing privileges are an excellent motivation in a country that has a broken economy and that allows few personal liberties and options to its citizens. The elite in this society are those citizens who are connected to the government. They have a certain level of power and help run government institutions and functions. Since the government controls where you live, they can assign the better apartments and cities to the elite. For example, living in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, is carefully controlled. Even to visit the capital, you need a police permit. And of course, nobody wants to be demoted to a tiny apartment in a city with no economy. The elite also enjoy perks that the rest of the population are not allowed to have or cannot afford. In a country characterized by empty highways, the highest levels of officials have drivers that transport them in luxury cars provided by the government. Other perks include things that we take for granted. For example, the ability to visit other cities, access to better education for the children, access to better healthcare and better paying jobs, being able to shop in certain stores, and access to limited internet or having cell phones and so on. Any and all of these privileges are dear and hard to come by. So you can imagine the level of loyalty that the elites display in order to hang on to those privileges. Totalitarian societies such as North Korea are held in check by a repressive system that spies on its citizens and that is ready to punish even the smallest infractions. If the curriculum fails to generate the desired results in the population, the government unleashes a repressive apparatus on dissenting citizens. As revealed by defectors, people that live in North Korea have suspicions that the realities presented to them by the government are not exactly true, but they dare not express their doubts or question what they are taught because they are under constant vigilance by others. All citizens are required to report any manifestations of dissent by anybody, and if you tell on someone, you will be rewarded with extra food rations. This is a great incentive in a country in which most of the population lives on a limited supply of food and calories. People live in fear of even the members of their households, even their sweethearts. You can never be sure who will betray you. The North Korean government believes in collective offenses, in which relatives and even neighbors are imprisoned for acts of dissidence of an individual. North Korean prisons are infamous for receiving entire families with children included. Does North Korea's use of the social and academic curriculum work? Well, you can say that it has kept the Kim family in power for many decades. But there's another way of looking at the results.
There are two very visible and strong effects that tell us that the results of this curriculum and the cult of personality has strong negative consequences for the people of North Korea.
At the death of Kim Il-sung in 1994 and Kim Jong-il in 2011, North Korean television broadcasted massive hysteric manifestations of grief in the population. Perhaps their intention was to show how much the North Korean people love their leaders, as if to say that they were wonderful leaders. Defecting North Korean officials have stated that at these occasions, the party surveyed the mourners to see who displayed the most grief and used this criterion to assess party members' loyalty. Whether these manifestations were sincere or not is immaterial. We cannot help but notice the lack of balance and composure in the people. The Kims were so deified throughout their years in power that many people did not even realize that they were mortal. Another sad result of this curriculum is seen in those fortunate enough to escape from that country. A logical destination for all defectors from North Korea is South Korea. And the Constitution of South Korea grants citizenship to all refugees from the North. To help insert the new arrivals into the culture and capitalist system of South Korea, refugees are asked to take classes to learn how to function in their new country. However, the years they lived under control of the North Korean system have atrophied their ability to think for themselves and make decisions. Newly freed North Koreans find themselves immensely challenged to make so many complicated decisions, such as where to live, where to work, what cell phone model to select, and what to do with their spare time. Refugees even have to learn not to feel guilty in their freedom and for being able to do things that were once prohibited.
Life and politics in North Korea are a fascinating topic, but that is all for now. You can view more about North Korea in the National Geographic production called Inside North Korea. I will see you in the next video, and have a wonderful day.